As intimate as the details are in this book, you really get a picture of what these guys were like, yet they still they seem so distant in history. I mean, all the pictures that you get are these paintings of Cornwallis, who stood his ground at Yorktown for so many months against George Washington and his army, and the young Marquis Lafayette at 23 was like a general from the French army, which moved in to help the Americans win the Yorktown War, which effectively ended battles. Henry Knox, he was in charge of the battery, the big cannons, and moved them around when needed, and also gave a lot of great advice. He invented like some kind of a turret or something for the cannons. And George Washington, who was, I was really interested in learning more about him, and this book really helps cover that. You learn more about his personality, how he really put his face out there on the front lines, risking certain death. He could have gotten shot multiple times, just being out in certain areas for the enemy to kill. But he got lucky, I think, in a lot of ways. Unlike a lot of other people, where there are many accounts of legs getting blown off by cannonballs as they zip by, or heads getting ripped off. There was a lot of amazing damage they went into detail with on both sides of all the explosions and stuff. The British were pretty nasty. They really looked down on Americans. They just considered us, our ancestors, as just simple farmers who were just gathered together to call themselves an army. They weren't respectable. So the British were a little better well trained, both on sea and on land. Luckily, the French made a huge contribution. Steuben, he was kind of a comical guy of sorts. He seemed to have entertained people with his harsh discipline. He's a very disciplined German. He was pretty much somebody who was a mercenary. He wasn't really an American, but the French really changed the tide of the war, but with their navy, with their ships. They brought in a lot of extra troops, and what motivated these French was not money. They actually believed in the American spirit of revolution against the British. Hamilton, he had some arguments with Knox. They worked together. Hamilton was also a general who moved troops, and there was a lot of maneuvering, a lot of detail in maneuvering. That's kind of hard to keep up on. Just reading it is interesting, but it's hard for me to get a good picture of what really was going on exactly, because they were doing so much maneuvering. Pretty much George Washington narrowly escaped capture or death in New York, marched 500 miles to Yorktown to take out Cornwallis, but he had to wait for the French to help him out. And they stormed redoubts, where there were like 2 redoubts outside of Yorktown with a few hundred of the English soldiers, and these redoubts were like battle encampments or something. Admiral de Cross, I believe he was another Frenchman who helped out the Americans in the defeat, making key decisions. Tarleton, I can't remember that guy. He's probably another French guy. A lot of French really turned the tide once again and helped out. I don't know if Americans could have won without the help of the French. And then this house apparently still stands